On the Abrego Garcia case, what is your response to the judge accusing the administration of bad faith and willful noncompliance?
Bad faith. We removed an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat, wife beater, designated terrorist from the United States. He's home. He's a citizen of El Salvador, a native El Salvador, who had due process despite what you're hearing. He got more due process than Laken Riley got.
He was in the country legally. There is no indication that he's a terrorist, but nonetheless, you have Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, continuing to lie about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who the Trump administration admitted they accidentally deported to El Salvador. And even though he had a legitimate asylum claim, which allowed him to be in the country legally under protected status, they deported him anyway. And why did he have that protected status again? What was his legitimate asylum claim, John?
The fear that he would be murdered by one of the gangs there.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, and now he's now in a prison where a ton of those gang members exist. All right, so in an absolutely scathing order, US District Judge Paula Xinis slammed the administration for ignoring court orders and obstructing the legal process in this particular case. She accused them of refusing to provide information about the steps they have taken, if any, to free Abrego Garcia, which the administration again admitted in court filings they accidentally deported due to an administrative error. Now, as we know, the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration nearly 2 weeks ago to facilitate his return back to the United States, which they failed to do. They're claiming that it's up to President Bukele in El Salvador to release him. Bukele's like, there's nothing I can do. Okay, and also they're trying to argue that information about any steps it has taken or could take to return Abrego Garcia is protected by attorney-client privilege laws, state secret laws, general government privilege, and other secrecy rules. Okay.
It's whatever, it's by something.
Yeah. And other secrecy rules.
Yeah. So I can't tell you which though, because that's secret.
Let me ask you something. What if the administration makes another administrative error? And in this administrative error, they, accidentally deport an American citizen who's done absolutely nothing wrong to El Salvador. Is the Trump administration then going to claim, oh, there's nothing we can do? There's nothing we can do. Is that what we're gonna hear?
I assume it would be exactly the same as this.
So Donald Trump, who managed to free American prisoners in places like Russia, is somehow unable to convince his close ally, Bukele, to release the guy that his administration accidentally deported.
I understand you're a naturally suspicious person, and so I think you're looking for possible deception from Trump, but I take him at his word that he's an impotent, flaccid little weenie who can't do literally anything in this case. He just can't do anything. El Salvador is so strong, Bukele's so scary. I can't do anything, get off my back about it. And I trust him in that. I think he's exactly that weenie. Look, this is a defense mechanism to joke about one of the worst stories we've ever had to cover, obviously, but no, it's pure evil out of them, including Tom Homan, who looks like if Droopy Dog was somehow less dog and stupider. But the thing about it is they were told to facilitate bringing him back. And the Supreme Court, who is way more afraid of teeing up an opportunity for Trump to declare that the Supreme Court is worthless than they are actually becoming worthless, they're not as scared about that. They gave him some wiggle room, which was just facilitate it. And Trump decided, no, I'm not going to even pretend to do this. And so they'll say like, oh, it's up to Bukele. And then every single one of them goes and does interviews where they're like, he's never coming back under any circumstances. Like Pam Bondi and Carolyn Leavitt and Tom Homan are all like, if he accidentally ends up here, we're deporting him again. So they're promising to break the law multiple times. So it's just on the Supreme Court, like they're spitting in your face over and over and over again. Are you going to do anything about it, or are you as impotent and flaccid as Donald Trump himself?
Well, look, the judge wants to do something about it, and the judge is not at all buying the arguments coming from the attorneys representing the Trump administration. So Xinis said the claims from the Trump administration, without any facts to back them up, reflected a willful and bad faith refusal to comply with discovery obligations.
Yep.
She also wrote in her order that for weeks, defendants have sought refuge behind vague and unsubstantiated assertions of privilege, using them as a shield to obstruct discovery and evade compliance with the court's orders. Defendants have known, at least since last week, that this court requires specific legal and factual showings to support any claim of privilege, yet they have continued to rely on boilerplate assertions that ends now.
I like it, that sounds strong.
It does sound strong. Now, she gave the administration until 6 p.m. local time today to provide the details, which means they didn't meet that deadline. Instead, in a sealed motion that was filed today, the administration asked the judge to delay her order for 7 days. They're also trying to get out of having to provide daily updates on Abrego Garcia's status and efforts to return him back to the United States. And honestly, it's unclear as of right now whether the judge has granted any of the Trump administration's requests. But she appears to have had it with them. She's incredibly frustrated. The real question is, what happens if the administration continues to refuse to comply? And that's where the concerns about a potential constitutional crisis come up.
Yeah, no, we're deep into the constitutional crisis. And so, look, I like the strong language, but what are the consequences if and when inevitably they don't comply with it? Are there going to be any? I mean, a crime was committed. There is a victim who could die at any moment. They directly contradicted, as Tom Homan pointed out, Garcia had due process. Yes, he did, 6 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
He did then. You guys broke the law in violating that. A crime was committed, someone needs to suffer the consequences for that. And I don't know exactly who that is, but I would imagine the 3 people most in charge of this area of Trump policy, which is Stephen Miller, as like his head of the mass deportation, Tom Homan, his border czar, and Pam Bondi, the head of the DOJ.
Yep.
They are refusing to comply with this. They are saying we are going to violate the law again, so threaten to throw them in jail. They've already violated the law. They're saying they're gonna do it again. Either you have authority as a judge or you don't. And so there has to be actual consequences. This can't just be rulings, harshly worded letters and things like that. There is a man languishing in prison. Yeah. Let's put them in prison, okay? Make them as worried about their future, their freedom, as Garcia has to be, or Garcia's wife, whose life has been put in jeopardy by the DHS, by putting out her address. So she now has to flee to a safe house because Trump fans might literally track her down and kill her for being an inconvenient victim.
Rather than having things escalate, and we are headed in that direction, I mean, if the administration's attorneys have already admitted in court filings that there was an error, an administrative error that led to this man's, wrongful deportation. I mean, it would have been so easy, just bring him back, comply with the court, and move on. But that's the thing, that's the thing that's so frustrating about the Trump administration. There's never any willingness to take any responsibility. I think people are, in general, afraid to admit that they're wrong. But I just want to say, people tend to really appreciate individuals who are willing to say, oh man, I screwed up, I apologize, I'm gonna take steps to make it right, it won't happen again. The Trump administration is incapable of that. And it's so incredibly frustrating because this annoying issue that they have to keep giving updates about could be dealt with in one fell swoop, bring them back, move on, but they just can't do it. They can't do it. And to your point about Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, she and their children had to move. Why? Well, it turns out that last week it was revealed that she had petitioned for an order of protection against Abrego Garcia after an argument that had gotten physical. She later decided not to move forward with that. Listen, I don't love learning that about this guy, okay? At the same time, though, unfortunately, couples fight. It gets nasty sometimes. One member of that couple might try to file a restraining order and then decide, I don't want to do this. I tried to do this when I was angry at my partner, whatever. But either way, now turns out that the administration essentially put her address out. So the reason why we know about that incident is because the Department of Homeland Security shared the petition, which prominently features her address with its 2.4 million followers on X. And so she told the Washington Post, I don't feel safe when the government posts my address, the house where my family lives, for everyone to see, especially when this case has gone viral and people have all sorts of opinions. So this is definitely a bit terrifying. I'm scared for my kids, a few of which, by the way, have special needs.
Yeah, and again, I don't like hearing that either. Constitution still applies. I know that they think this is some sort of shortcut.
Yeah, exactly.
Where like, oh, well, let's say by the way that he did actually do something physical, which has not been established, but let's say that he did. That doesn't mean the Constitution just goes away. I know that right-wingers would like that to be the case, but it doesn't. And by the way, if allegations of this sort of stuff means that you no longer require any consideration whatsoever, the law, rights, those don't exist anymore. Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, I know a lot about your history. I think most Americans know about what you've been accused of doing. Do you deserve consideration? Do you deserve rights, the freedoms, protections afforded you by the Constitution? Because you guys have been accused of far worse stuff than Garcia's been accused of. And you guys are not only languishing in some death camp or whatever, you're in positions of power in the halls of government. That seems utterly unacceptable if that's the new standard that we're gonna have.
It's a scary situation, not just for Abrego Garcia and his wife and his family, but it's scary in regard to the future of this country and the precedent this is setting.
Yeah.
Right, the erosion of due process, the doubling down of making a terrible mistake, knowing that someone is suffering as a result of that mistake and refusing to make it right. Like all of that stuff is terrifying, and it should be terrifying to American citizens as well. This provides the federal government with unmitigated power to harm you if they want.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Can I have one tiny thing, I apologize. It reeks of like a reboot of like the 2001, 2002 era of, we're gonna do whatever we want, and if you start to question it, I'm gonna scream the word terrorist at you.
Dude,
so shut the hell up, because I said terrorist.
Yes.
So that's it. In some cases I'll say anti-Semite or whatever, but generally I'll say terrorist, and I'll say it over and over and over again, and you shut the hell up about your stupid Constitution, okay? That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like the neoconservatives are back in charge, because that was the neoconservative talking point in the aftermath of 9/11 that unfortunately persuaded a lot of Americans to sign over their civil liberties.
Yeah.
So just be careful in regard to what you're advocating for. You can be a Trump supporter if you want, but it's okay to be critical when you notice that he is pushing for the erosion of constitutional rights that we need to fight to protect. All right, let's lighten things up a little bit. With a comment from J Bills 3000, because J Bills, I was really hoping someone would notice, but J Bills likes my earrings. This story is very important, but I love Anna's new earrings. Thank you. They're actually not new. They're new for me, but they are mid-century era earrings that I was searching for years and finally found.
These specific ones? How did you know to search for them? So
these are the same hoops, they're not Marilyn Monroe's hoops, but they're the same hoops that she wore in a few movies.
Oh.
And I've been obsessed with them. And so I did a lot of digging, a lot of research, found out, who made the earrings and
oh my God, that's amazing.
Finally found a Mennonite charity that was selling them secondhand. Did not realize how desirable these earrings are and sold them for way less than they should have. And I snatched them right up.
Screw over that charity, yeah. I'm kidding, I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding.
Listen.
I'm kidding, I'm sure they were very happy to have the money because they were just sitting there.
I gave them what they wanted.
I'm totally kidding, but you're like a fancy Indiana Jones.
What?
You're tracking down these artifacts because they belong on my ears.
I just feel like the fashion was so much better in the 50s. Like so much better. I love the jewelry, I love the women's dresses. Like
Yeah, you used to be big into like the vintage dresses for a period. I remember.
Oh, I'm still into it.
Oh yeah,
it's just not warm enough yet for me to wear,
that's
because they're mostly like sundresses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I cared as much. I'd look fancier, but anyway.
You always dress nice.
I'll find some ring that James Bond was wearing or something. I'm gonna track it down.
I'm telling you, like if you see something or an actor like wearing something you like in an old film, you can probably track down that item.
I've done that only once for one item of clothing, and it was literally something that James Bond wore in a movie.
Oh, really?
And I spent way too much on a coat, and I got it. I put it on. It was like I bought it online and I got it, and I was like, I can't justify it, and so I returned it. It was like twice as much as I'd ever spent on a coat. It was like gonna be this big splurge. I was like, it's just not worth it. So
no, look, I totally get it. Like I'm very responsible with like personal finance, like saving, being all of that. I had found these earrings from another vendor, but it was like $1,500. I'm like, I can't spend $1,500 on earrings. There's no way. So I let it go. And it took me months until I found another vendor that was selling them for a lot less.
Are there any other items that you're still hunting for?
Yeah, although I don't think that this dress was available for retail. I think that it was actually made by a costume designer for the film, but I think it's called Niagara. In the film Niagara, she's wearing this purple.
Marilyn Monroe?
Yes.
She's gotten really into Marilyn Monroe lately.
Her style was amazing. So it was like this lavender mock neck wiggle dress, and she had a like gold belt, gold cuffs on both arms, and she was wearing these earrings.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
So gorgeous.
Oh, that's cool. Well, maybe it would be easier just to hire a dressmaker
I've thought about it because I really want that dress. So I've thought about it, but I've tried to find dupes. It's hard. They don't make nice clothes anymore.
No, it's all fast fashion.
It's all
I've seen the documentaries.
Yeah, it sucks.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.